What would you do if you could access a dungeon from another world and also play with your sensei as many times as you wanted? Our hero, whose name is revealed to be Seino, looks like he's dozing off in class, but is then approached by his friend Suzumoto, who is also known as Suzu. Seino is asked about how his trip to the burial mound was over the weekend, but he doesn't look too pleased about it. He says that there were too many tourists there, which was mainly why he couldn't investigate the area like he wanted to. Suzu can see traces of Seino's detective genes lurking inside him, so he comments on the same, saying he can relate. It looks like our hero isn't a fan of his parents either, as he completely dismisses Suzu's words and says that his mom and dad aren't the best in the world. Of course, no boy would ever talk about his parents this way unless he had a good reason for it. Suzu notes that Seino always talks about his parents like this, but then our hero tries to steer the conversation away and shifts the focus to Suzu. After all, he does not want this to turn into a session about his daddy and mommy issues. Instead, Seino asks his friend how his weekend was, and he says that he made the most of it by doing unspeakable things with his girlfriend. That obviously sounds like a dream weekend, and Seino is amazed by Suzu's skills. But at the same time, he has no intention of getting his own girlfriend. It's rather surprising because boys like Seino are always chasing after girls, hoping to get some action. Suzu asks him why he's being this way, and he simply replies by saying girls take up too much of your time. If our hero were to spend all his weekends on his babes, then he would never be able to go out on adventures. This is actually a fair point, and it paints a picture of Seino being almost like an alpha male. Suzu gets what he means, but also calls Seino a fool for not wanting to indulge in basic pleasures. This is also a correct counter because intrusive thoughts never rest. He even asks our hero if he's feeling the rage and passion of his youth, to which Seino replies that he does have an interest, but not of romance. He just wants to do lewd things with girls and be done with them, because that is what his body requires. Suzu makes the most of this chance and calls out Seino for being a shady boy. He even says it out loud for the whole class to hear, so Seino asks him to control his volume. Suzu feels that Seino wants to get lucky with all the cute and curvy girls of their class, and he will never be able to maintain his focus on just one lover. One of these girls happens to be the committee president Natsuno, who is indeed a total babe. However, Suzu also notes that girls don't like it when you call them cute as if it's a public service announcement. This leads both Seino and Suzu to go on and comment on Natsuno's petite figure and her horrible attitude towards boys. They would much rather have liked her to be nicer, but then they also know that Natsuno's friend Akitsu has those qualities. In such a case, it would make a lot more sense to go after Akitsu than Natsuno. It turns out that Akitsu is cute and friendly, and also happens to be very close to Natsuno, which makes their duo a nicely balanced team. Seino feels that Akitsu has what it takes for him to enjoy adult activities with her. On that note, Suzu mentions the stylish Fukushima, who has a keen sense of style. While our hero does find her to be pretty, he also says that she doesn't have any cute or innocent qualities. Also, she doesn't smile a lot, which has led to her getting the nickname of Snow Woman. Seino admits that it's a little rude to call a girl that name even if she doesn't have much charm, but then Suzu takes it a step further and says that her body isn't curvy at all. Seino tries to keep Suzu from giving in to his intrusive thoughts, but then the most popular girl in class makes her way inside. The boys can't control their emotions as their homeroom teacher enters the room and asks everyone to settle down. She is shown to be the cutest of them all, and she begins her class by addressing Natsuno. The boys can only think of doing unspeakable things to their teacher, but Seino also says that it would be better if his sensei wore something other than jersey clothes. After all, it would give her a lot more appeal and an added touch of grace. Now, before we move any further into the story, it's time for a flashback. Here, we see Seino, who is saying goodbye to his parents, both of whom are going on an adventure. Seeing them had inspired our hero to become just like his mom and dad, but from the looks of it, this was the last time he ever saw their faces. Even though he constantly told his parents that he wanted to become like them, they would simply ask him to stay at home and take care of it while they were out having fun. As it so happened, this particular memory might have been the start of Seino's lonely nature. This is because his parents keep traveling, and it's been 10 whole years since Seino has had to deal with this kind of behavior. However, this did not stop him from achieving his goals, and he too set out to become an adventurer just like his parents. It led to him training his physical strength and even receiving the best grades in school just for the sake of having a track record. Of course, this was never going to be enough because the most important thing was to go on an adventure first. Now, we're back to the present where Seino is entering his house, but then he starts to feel odd. There's a sense of faintness in his head and he has no idea what's going on. Our hero spaces out to a complete moment of darkness, and when he opens his eyes again, he finds himself inside some kind of dungeon. He looks around, trying to make sense of the situation, and reasons to himself by saying he's just in the basement of his own house. He tries to check out the place, but this doesn't look like his place at all, which makes him doubt his surroundings. After a bit of looking around, Seino opens a secret door and is shocked to see a whole passage right in front of his eyes. He is clueless as to why he's here and doesn't understand what's going on. He is sure that his basement looks nothing like this, as it is only used for storage. As a matter of fact, he is trying to figure if he has been reincarnated in another world. His parents are abroad, so there's no way for him to contact them, and our hero is only left with the option of calling the cops or the fire department. However, Seino just feels that he's in a weird dream, so maybe all of this will end when he wakes up. Just as he thinks this, a notebook shows up in front of him and catches his attention. He picks it up and feels an odd surge of energy rushing through his body, after which he notices a symbol on his hand. Seino suspects something fishy, and it isn't long before he sees the notebook opening up to an ominous note. It's safe to say that he's not at home anymore, but rather in a labyrinth from another world. The text on the notebook says that it will guide our hero through this maze by using the guidance from the walls. With no other option, Seino decides to feel the vibe of the dungeon and is able to sense that there are various levels to it. Since there are high and low levels, it's important for him to check his own power by looking at the palm of his right hand. He also tells us that he can check the power levels of other people and even monsters just by closing one of his eyes. By touching the walls of this labyrinth, our hero is able to tell us everything about this place. The term LV is used to indicate levels for monsters, but for humans, it's meant to mean love. It's all the same at the end of the day, but it's important to note that monsters can grow stronger through fights and battles. We can see that our hero has a new knife, and his outfit has changed as well, which means that he's totally in to get this adventure started. Of course, Seino would like to know why this is the case, but then he stumbles across some more information. Basically, he can gain access to 3 treasure chests on every floor. These chests will give him all kinds of magic tools which he can use even outside the labyrinths and dungeons. The best part is that these treasure chests refill every year, so Seino can get his magic tools as many times as he wants. The trick is that he will need to gain a few levels for the magic tools to be usable. This dungeon is more like a video game because the rules dictate that the damage received here will go away once you exit the labyrinth. Also, if the damage goes beyond a certain level, Seno will simply be taken to the entrance and lose all the magic tools he gathered during this trip, just like a checkpoint. The main rule is to get as many magic tools as possible and take minimum damage to survive the adventure. With this, our hero closes the notebook and feels a sense of ambition. He realizes that this is his chance to become an adventurer, just like his parents. He begins his journey by walking into the dungeon and can already feel the wind blowing to the back. Seno wonders if he's under the house next to his own, but it gets confirmed that the dungeon is actually in his own basement. Time passes by, and our hero has walked quite a bit, but he hasn't come across any monsters or treasure chests. It makes him wonder if the notebook was just filled with nonsense, but then he finally locates a chamber. He takes a close look, and to his pleasant surprise, he has finally come across a treasure chest. He wants to take a good look at it and tries to look for the key, but notices that the chest is not locked. He opens the treasure chest and feels a sense of victory in his first accomplishment. But this is just the start of a rather tricky situation. All of a sudden, a monster tree shows up behind him and strikes him down with a slash attack. Seno falls to the floor and loses his senses for a bit, but then he manages to get back up. He is at a loss for words when he sees the giant tree monster in front of him, because he thinks it's weird for a tree to be planted in a dungeon. He soon realizes that the beast is moving and it's not a typical plant that he would find in a garden. The tree monster spares no mercy as it lashes out at our hero and strikes him one more time. Seno is confused at first, but figures that the beast is trying to protect the treasure from him. Soon enough, he feels an odd sensation in his face and fears losing to the tree monster in his first attempt. Luckily, he remembers all the times that people doubted his abilities and reduced him to just another normal student. This is all it takes for Seno to let go of all his doubts and face the monster with an open heart. He takes out his knife and unleashes a flurry of attacks on the monster without any hesitation. It's a rather furious display of strength as Seno doesn't hold back in his total decimation of the tree monster. Our hero is able to land so many blows in so little time that the tree monster completely disintegrates after receiving the finisher move. It was a long battle that tired out Seno for a bit, but he has become the winner and can proudly lay claim to his treasure. He decides to take this treasure home with him because even if the labyrinth were to disappear tomorrow, he can at least enjoy what he has earned right now. Our hero checks out the treasure chest and finds a candle inside, much to his surprise. He then reads a note that has come with the candle which says that it's a night calling tool which can help him with girls. Basically, upon lighting this candle, girls will lose control of their passion and act on their intrusive thoughts. This is good news for Seno, but the note also says that he can only use this candle when inside a room, and on top of that, he can only use it once. That's good enough for our hero, and then we see him in school the next day, which means that he's still in this world. Suzu can see that his buddy is smiling non-stop, so he asks him what's the matter. Suzu wonders if something good has happened with Seno, but our hero realizes that he's giving too much away in his actions. Also, he needs to check out the dungeon again because there are way too many questions that he needs answers to. In order to do this properly, he will need to level up, and for that, he will need to use the wingman candle. The only problem here is that he will need to choose a partner with whom he can do what he has never done before. He has a nice variety of girls to choose from, but each of them is cute and pretty in their own way, so it's hard for Seno to make an easy pick. After class, our hero decides that it would be best to go for someone with experience, so he asks one of his classmates where his sensei is. Her name is revealed to be Harumaki or Haru, and we see her in office looking pretty as ever. She is shocked to see Seno here, because he's not the type to come for advice after classes are done. He tells his sensei that he wants her advice on something, and it looks like our hero is finally going to go where no man has gone before. However, we end on a bit of a bummer because he says that his parents have not paid his fees for the next year. Of course, this is also a valid issue, but it feels odd to see Sano not giving in to his intrusive thoughts. Haru is confused upon hearing this, because Sano's parents should not have any issues when it comes to money. The problem, though, is that they have spent so much money on useless water diving equipment that there's not enough left to spend on tuition. Sano begs her to talk to his parents so that they don't end up wasting their cash on things like this. Haru wants to help her student, so she offers to come home and talk to his mom and dad. She even takes the consent of her vice principal for an early day off, and that's when we learn that Sano is a very sly playboy. Haru and Sano reach his house, but his parents are obviously not there, so it confuses the sensei. She asks Sano where his mom and dad are, so he thinks of a quick excuse and says that they haven't come back from their adventure yet. He convinces Haru to wait for a bit, and she's fine with it because the conversation will anyway be a little awkward. Sano is glad to see how well his plan is working, so he asks Haru to have a seat while he goes to get sweets that taste like tea. As he walks up the stairs, our hero decides to use his magic candle to the test and see if it's actually worth the risk. He comes back with the sweets and the candle, which catches Haru's eyes. She asks about it, so Sano says that it's an aroma candle that his mom got back as a collector's item. He smooth talks his way around the candle and goes on to light it with Haru's permission. He is excited to see what happens next, but the fire is light and looks like it's about to go out almost instantly. It's not exactly what Sano was hoping for, but he's fine with the magic not working, as he didn't believe in it much. However, his body starts to feel hot all of a sudden and he tries to control himself. He looks over to Haru and can see that she's feeling the same thing as well. Haru looks like she's going to explode any minute, and even starts to show her body in order to feel more comfortable. She asks Sano if she can come closer to him, and he says yes instantly. Our hero has all kinds of nasty thoughts going through his mind as Haru crawls up to him with lewd intentions. She asks him if he has been feeling lonely, because he's at an age where he needs a lot of action. Sano tries to play it cool and asks Haru what she would do if he were to admit that he was lonely. This makes Haru say that she is his sensei and it's her duty to fulfill his desires. With that, she attacks Sano's mouth and gives him a taste of dessert before the main course. He tries to control himself and even brings out the point that he is her student, so what they're doing is wrong. This only excites Haru further, so she says that Sano doesn't need to worry about anything. She is ready to do all the work for him, so Sano says yes without any further constraints. He has nailed his mission and is finally going to do it with his sensei, so this is a bigger achievement to him than defeating the tree monster. What follows is a session full of passion and lewd activities. Haru is happy to have taken care of her student, but then she wants to go another round with him. Eventually, the candle's flame runs out and both of them come back to their senses. Haru has no idea what just happened, so Sano tells her it's best to keep this a secret between the both of them. She agrees to it because she might lose her job as a teacher if the other students were to find out about the unspeakable things she has done with her own pupil. Sano tells Haru that he will deal with his parents, and she should go back home, which is exactly what happens. Before leaving, Haru says sorry to Sano and leaves his place, leaving our hero alone to cherish what he has just done. He takes a look at his level to see if the notebook was correct, and to his pleasant surprise, his level has increased to 5. This is good news for him, but it has come at a cost, and he needs to be more careful in the future. However, he doesn't care if he has to do it with all the girls in his school, because it is his new mission to complete the dungeon and become a true adventurer. With that, he goes back to the labyrinth and begins his next task. As he enters the dungeon, Seino thinks back to the nasty things he had done with his sensei. If those lewd acts were good enough to take him to level 5, then he needs to test out how much progress he has made. He had taken a right turn the other day, so now he decides to go left. Since he has 2 other treasure chests to take, Seino learns that the monsters on this floor range from level 1 to level 5, so he needs to be alert if he wants to get all the treasure chests. In order to get the job done properly, he needs to map out this floor because GPS and radio methods don't work here. Luckily for him, the labyrinth is quite easy to walk through, and there are torches on the walls at every interval, so it's not a complex task. We learn that time passes by the same way in the dungeon as it does in the real world, so it looks like the dungeon is in a different dimension that's separated from the real world. This explains why the place is so wide, but there's no time to talk about such things as our hero comes across a giant mouse. He wonders if it's friendly at first, but quickly realizes that in this dungeon, beasts like this one are all monsters. Seino gets ready to take it on, but first he checks out the level of the monster mouse. It appears to be only of level 1, so the fight should be an easy one. However, the mouse has some tricks of its own. It rolls into a ball and spins at a rapid speed to try and attack Seino, but he manages to take it down after blocking the attack and landing a sharp blow. He manages to do it in just 1 strike, which means that his loving session with Haru did have its benefits. Seino continues to look around the place and is shocked to see how vast the floor is. If the first floor is so big, then he can only imagine what the others are going to be like. However, he stops thinking about these things when he notices a small room. He walks into the room and notices another treasure chest inside it. Seino looks around to confirm if there are any monsters over here, but he can't find even one. He proceeds to open the chest, but notices that there's a plant wrapped around it. At first, it looks like a pretty blue rose, but when Seino comes closer towards it, he is attacked by the flower, which turns out to be a deadly monster. What's worse is that it's a level 5 monster, which means our hero has his work cut out for him. Of course, he knows that opening treasure chests will not be an easy walk in the park, so he charges at the rose monster with his knife. An intense battle follows, as Seino slashes at the beast with all his skills, but the rose monster uses its thorns to slow him down. Our hero takes note of this, so he tries to find a way to get past this issue. He notices that the rose monster likes to stick to his jacket, so he comes up with a plan and takes it off. He then places the jacket on top of the beast, which puts it in a difficult spot as it's unable to move now. Seino uses this advantage and stabs the monster as many times as he can. He has to put in some effort, but is eventually able to come out on top. Of course, his jacket gets damaged in the process, but he knows that it will recover when he gets out of the dungeon. With the danger finally evaded, Seino decides to open the treasure chest, and he finds a folding umbrella inside it. This is a rather odd treasure, so he picks up the note and learns that it's called a fate-experiencing umbrella. Basically, if a girl were to come under this umbrella with Seino, then she will fall in love with him. The longer she stays under the umbrella, the stronger she will feel for him. The good thing about this is that Seino can use the umbrella as many times as he wants, but then again, he can't directly raise his level with it. After all, love may not lead to unspeakable acts. Anyway, our hero decides to carry on, even though he has experienced some damage because of the rose monster. He walks around for a bit and comes across another tree monster, just like the one from the previous day. It looks angry, so our hero thinks about taking it on, but then he sees that it's a level 5 beast, so he decides not to take the risk right now. After all, he also has the love umbrella, so he could lose it if he takes too much damage from the tree. With that, Sano goes back home and resumes with his normal life at school. Suzu sees him and notices something different about the way he is looking and even walking. It makes him wonder if Sano has changed. And the one thing that comes to his mind is that his friend has now found a girlfriend. However, Sano says that isn't the case, which confuses Suzu, because Sano definitely looks like he's become a man now. Our hero's behavior seems a bit shady to Suzu, and he also asks him where his umbrella is, because the forecast says that it's going to rain today. This news seems to bother the girls, especially Natsuno, who had overslept the previous night. Suzu hears Akitsu chatting with Natsuno and teases them about not being prepared for the rain. Natsuno doesn't like the sound of his tone, so she tells him not to bother her and her friend. Sano takes this chance to be polite to the girls, so he greets them with a good morning. The girls also greet him nicely, so Suzu asks for a cute greeting as well. However, he didn't say it the same way as Sano, so Natsuno tells him that he's been a naughty boy. Even Sano joins in on the fun, and it makes Suzu question his own friend. It's time for class, and Haru steps in, but she makes sure to act as calm as she can, even though her lover boy is right in front of her eyes. Sano notices this, and is glad that Haru is able to behave with so much control, almost as if they never did all the nasty things that happened the previous day. It does look like Haru is blushing a bit upon seeing Sano, so she quickly asks Natsuno to carry out the morning salute routine. She follows her sensei's orders and instructs the class to follow her lead. This gives Haru a chance to calm herself down. Somehow, Haru manages to collect herself, and then she talks about returning the midterm sheets. Sano sees this and feels proud that he was able to have such a strong effect on his own teacher. Soon enough, it starts to rain and our hero begins with his plan. Natsuno doesn't like the look of the rain, but Sano has already set his eyes on her. She gets called out by Haru to meet her after class, so Sano decides to wait for her under the excuse that he forgot his umbrella. Natsuno comes back to class and is surprised to see our hero still here. He tells her that he had forgotten his umbrella, so he's waiting for the rain to stop. However, Natsuno simply tells him goodbye and walks away. Our hero is shocked to hear this because Natsuno has also forgotten her umbrella. He chases after her to see what's up and finds her with Akitsu, who has been waiting for her. It turns out that both the girls are neighbors, which is why it's easier for them to go back home with each other. He admits defeat and is ready to go back home alone, but then he gets caught by the girls. Natsuno can see his love umbrella and is a bit confused, but then he explains to her that he had forgotten that he'd put it in his bag. This makes Akitsu blush, and then she tells Natsuno that she has a rare chance now that no one is looking. Natsuno is a little shy, but Atsuki asks her to go with Sano under his umbrella. Our hero hears this and is surprised that he has found an unlikely ally in Atsuki. Of course, Natsuno is not ready to do this by herself, so Atsuki pushes her towards Sano and says that they can switch after they reach the grocery store. With that, Atsuki pushes ahead, so even Sano and Natsuno decide to walk with her. Our hero finally has the chance to see how effective his love umbrella is, and he opens it for his latest target. Suddenly, Natsuno has a strange feeling in her heart, so Sano asks her if all is well. She brushes it off for now, but admits that she had an odd throbbing in her heart. This gives Sano a lot of hope, and he wishes for his umbrella to do its thing soon. However, Akitsu turns back and mentions that her umbrella is bigger than Sano's, so it would make sense for them to switch for now. This is bad news for Sano, so he tries to convince Akitsu that he's fine like this. Of course, Akitsu is just saying this because she feels that the couple will get wet in the rain. Puts our hero in a spot and he has no idea what to say next. He won't be able to do anything with Natsuno if they switch umbrellas, and it looks like his game is finally over. However, Natsuno turns the tables for him by telling Akitsu that her umbrella has flower patterns on it. No man in his right mind would want to hold such an umbrella, so it makes sense for Sano not to do the switch. Our hero is relieved by this and manages to smooth things out with the girls. He is glad that his plan is very much still alive, but also wonders why Akitsu is being so playful. He doesn't care about that for now because he wants to get with Natsuno at the moment and can soon get Akitsu under his love umbrella as well. It's almost as if he has the luck of a god, so he makes the most of it and walks with Natsuno. As expected, the couple is a little awkward, so Akitsu points it out and says that they need to be more lovey-dovey with each other. Sano is shocked to hear such words coming out of her mouth, but Natsuno tells him that Akitsu likes to speak that way, especially when she's excited. Akitsu adds to her words by saying she likes to enjoy things to their fullest, and she doesn't even trouble anyone in the process. Natsuno doesn't seem to feel that way, but she quickly changes the topic because she doesn't want Sano to think that she doesn't care about him. She goes on to say that she's never been with a man under an umbrella, and it makes Sano confident that his love tool is doing the trick. Natsuno is not behaving like her usual self at all, and she tries to act cute with Sano by saying he's probably being forced to do this with her. He plays it smart and says that he was actually hoping for this chance because he wanted to talk to her for a while. Natsuno tries to play it off as a friendly thing, but our hero knows that he can score if he ticks all the right areas. He decides to bring out the big guns and asks Natsuno if she's going out with anyone. She blushes and says no, but also asks Sano why he asked her this question. Our hero tells her that it's strange for a girl like her not to have a lover because she's very cute. This sets Natsuno off in a frenzy, and she says that she's not as cute as he thinks she is. Of course, this is a strong sign that she's fallen in love with him, and it's a bonus point for Sano. Akitsu is also there watching it all unfold, and she's glad that something interesting has come out of all this tension. Natsuno can't stop blushing, but then the trio reaches the grocery store, so it's time to switch. Akitsu is ready to team up with Sano now, and Natsuno has to deal with being alone. Our hero is glad that he gets to use his love umbrella on two cute girls, and soon enough, even Akitsu falls for him. As a matter of fact, she becomes so affected that she holds Sano's arm and says that she's his girlfriend now. Our hero acts shy and tells Akitsu that she's being a bit too dramatic, but secretly. But then Akitsu asks him how he was able to make Natsuno fall in love with him so soon. She wonders if he is a god who can girls fall for him instantly. But then she mentions that he might be hiding a deep dark secret within his umbrella. The shady look on Akitsu's face sure feels like she herself is hiding something that our hero doesn't know about. Sano is a bit surprised to hear her say this, and Akitsu even mentions that it could be the reason why he didn't want to switch umbrellas with her. Our hero wonders if Akitsu knows about the effects of his love umbrella, but then he uses his brains and realizes that she would have stepped away from the magical tool even if it meant getting wet in the rain. This could only mean that Akitsu has a hunch and is acting on it. She goes a step further and tells Sano that she'll let him touch her body if he tells her the secret behind the umbrella. Our hero just gives her a neutral look, and then she snaps out of it because this was a rather bold thing to say. This gives Sano some proof that Akitsu only had some suspicion about the umbrella and didn't know the truth. Now that the love effects are taking over her body, she won't be able to make calm and composed decisions moving forward. He decides to deflect the topic for some time so that the umbrella can completely take over Akitsu. Natsuno just watches the couple from behind as Seno tells Akitsu that his umbrella is quite normal. Akitsu cutely asks him if she can hold the umbrella, and this puts Seno in a tricky spot. However, Natsuno won't allow this to happen because she has laundry at home and needs to get back as soon as possible. Of course, it could also be that she's jealous of Akitsu, who just doesn't want to let go of Seno. Eventually, Natsuno grabs Akitsu from behind and drags her home before things start to heat up between her and Seno. Now, the girls reach home and Seno can see that they are very close neighbors. Natsuno says goodbye with love, as does Akitsu, but she wants to have a chat with Seno the next time they see each other. Our hero is glad that he was saved by Natsuno earlier, but he needs to be careful around Akitsu. He gets ready for the dungeon again, and realizes that he needs to get more treasure items soon, or else he won't be able to increase his level. It's time to find the final treasure chest of the first floor, and Seno figures that he needs to check the inner sections of the dungeon, since he's only been focusing on the outer borders so far. All of a sudden, he comes across a giant raccoon monster which growls at him with rage. Seno takes a look and identifies it to be a level 4 beast, which is not too bad, but also means that he'll have to take some damage. This monster is much bigger than the mouse he fought earlier, so he needs to end this within 2 or 3 blows. Now, Seno slowly approaches the raccoon monster from behind and is surprised that it hasn't noticed him yet. He takes his chance and lands his knife into its skull, thus ending it with one simple blow. Our hero is shocked that he was able to take down such a beast with a single move, but carries on because he's almost done exploring the whole floor. It doesn't take long before he finds the final treasure chest. Seno is at the finishing line, but finds another raccoon monster guarding the treasure chest, which proves that each treasure comes with a monster guard. A sneak attack won't be possible here, so our hero has no choice but to go at the beast with all his might. The raccoon is ready for a fight, but Seno manages to strike it in a vital point, and this is good enough to take it down with a single blow yet again. Seno is impressed that he's able to deal so much damage this way, but also notes that it can get dangerous for him if he only aims for vital points. Our hero hopes that he'll get a tool like the candle, which will help him get instant action from the girls. Also, he doesn't know how to move to the next floor, so he's hoping for clues as well. Upon opening the treasure chest, he finds a small bottle, which is called Craving extract. Seno thinks there's something shady about this bottle and proceeds to check the note. What he learns is that the extract will make girls want to drink his bodily fluids after consuming a certain amount. This makes his intrusive thoughts run amok once again, and then we shift to the school setting in the real world. In class, Seno notices that Natsuno's feelings towards him are still very strong, but Akitsu hasn't changed much at all. He thinks that he should use the Craving extract on Natsuno because she is an easier target, but he also needs to be careful of Akitsu, who now thinks he's a shady guy. He decides against using it on Haru, because his sensei has already done a lot of service to him. The only girl left is Fukushima, so he figures she can be his next mate. Seno walks up to her and asks if she can help him out with some numbers, since she's a class topper. Fukushima agrees to it, and our hero's plan sets itself into action. The both of them start discussing some math problems, and Natsuno gets jealous upon seeing this. However, Akitsu tells her it's time to go home, so Seno can breathe easy for a bit. Akitsu does wave goodbye to Seno while leaving, which makes him a little uneasy, but then he gets back to his math problems. After some time, Fukushima gets done with her lessons and Seno is pleased by her efforts. He wants to reward her with a drink, but she says that she doesn't need it. Of course, Seno isn't going to let her off so easy, so he insists on getting her something to drink. He gets out of the classroom and comments that this is a little harder than he had expected, but he shouldn't back off so easily. Sano reads the text once again and learns that he will need to use at least 10 ml of the Craving extract to get the job done. The bottle itself has only 30 ml, so he needs to make the most of it. Our hero isn't one to take any undue chances, so he had made sure to inject 20 ml of the extract into a bottle for this very purpose. He enters the classroom again with the bottle and gives it to Fukushima. He explains that the vending machine wasn't working properly, so the bottle's a little warm, but Fukushima doesn't mind, so she starts drinking from the bottle. Our hero looks at her with shady eyes, knowing very well that his plan is coming along quite nicely. Fukushima ends up drinking the whole bottle, and the effects start to hit her almost instantly. This is good news for Sano, as she tells him that she's feeling very thirsty. He offers to get her another bottle, but she doesn't want that kind of drink. She says that she wants to drink Sano's fluids and approaches him with passion. Of course, such a statement is quite bold in itself, but the fact that Fukushima is saying it without any shame is what makes our hero feel a bit odd. At the end of the day, Fukushima is not known for being a very expressive girl, so the Craving extract can't change that. Our hero simply says that he doesn't mind it because he wants to thank her for her study notes. He unzips his and gets ready for some heaven on earth, but Fukushima is a little confused. She doesn't know how to get the fluids out of his body, so he explains the process and the motion to her. Fukushima does as she's told, and our hero's plan succeeds once again. It doesn't take long for her to get what she's thirsting after, and Sano is pleased with the results. But this was just one load. Since she has had enough extract to crave for 2, she requests one more session. Sano thinks it will be difficult for him to generate his fluids so quickly, so he instructs Fukushima to and use her for better results. Our hero wants to check how effective the Craving extract is, so he suggests doing the same thing that he done with Haru. However, Fukushima is not too keen on this, so the extract only works with the mouth and the hands. It's fair enough for Sano, because the note did not promise anything extra. Anyway, Fukushima goes all the way and our hero is shocked to see how effective his commands can be while using these magic tools. It's time to get down to business, but Fukushima needs some guidance on how to use her as well. Sano gives her some effective suggestions, and it doesn't take long for him to give her what she desires. After the session is completed, Fukushima wears her clothes and says that she's going home, but doesn't show any kind of shyness. Sano is taken aback by this, but thanks her for her services anyway. Fukushima acts so cool about the whole thing that it almost feels as if she wanted to do it in the first place. Sano wonders what kind of mental state she must be living in, but he doesn't have time for such thoughts. He takes a look at the palm of his hand and can see that his level has increased to 7 now. This is not as much as what he had gotten from Haru, but this was a different kind of act as well. Sano realizes that he can increase his level by any kind of act, and it doesn't have to involve home base. However, he also wonders if his levels increase because of the fact that he's using a magical tool, or because of the act itself. It's a valid thought because he can plan his next moves accordingly, but then the doorbell rings and he goes to check it out. Sano thinks it's a delivery boy, but to his surprise, it's his sensei Haru who is blushing just upon seeing his face. Sano asks her what she's doing here, but first she asks if she can come in, because she doesn't want to be seen by anyone in the area. Our hero lets her inside and then she apologizes for showing up so suddenly. Haru can see that Sano is wearing his adventure suit, so she asks what's up with that. Our hero feels awkward and says that he's trying to practice for a mission he has on the weekend. Haru thinks this is cute, and she says that Sano really wants to be like his parents. At the same time, she also asks him not to overdo it because he might get hurt as a result. Haru then asks if Seino's parents are around, but he says that they've gone out on an adventure. He also says that he spoke to them about the fees, so it's been sorted as of now. Of course, this is all just a big lie, but Haru is pleased to hear her lover boy's words. An awkward silence follows, so Seino offers to get some tea for his sensei. However, she asks him to sit down because she's not here for tea. She bows down to Seino and says sorry for all the lewd things she did to him the other day. Our hero tells her it's fine and he too is to blame for letting it happen. However, Haru says that it's her mistake because she crossed a line between student and teacher that she should not have done. She then tells Seino that he can punish her however he likes. She offers to quit her job and even offers him money for what she did to him, which is a dream come true for a boy in a normal situation. Seino feels bad about what he has done with his sensei, so he tells her that she has nothing to be sorry about. He says that she's a good teacher and the students at the school would feel lonely if she was to quit her job. Haru is happy to hear this and thanks her lover boy for his kind words, and proceeds to take her leave after that. She once again says that she's sorry for barging in like this, and hopes to see Seino in school the next day. This makes our hero feel terrible about what he's done with Haru, and he decides not to do shady things with her by using the magic tools. As he reflects on his past actions, he notices that he didn't hear anything after Haru left the room. As a matter of fact, her shows are still here as well, which can only mean one thing. Seino panics and looks for his sensei, but it's too late as he finds her right outside the entrance to the dungeon. She is shocked to see this and demands to know what it's doing in Seino's basement. Our hero is at a loss for words and doesn't know what to say that can make this situation any better for him. Of course, he can always try his magical tools, but that isn't going to do him any good over here. As Seino tries to figure out what to deceive Haru, a dark force comes from the dungeon and lures her inside. He takes his knife and runs after his sensei, but she's too far ahead, so he needs to catch up as soon as he can. Haru is acting weird and isn't responding to what Seino is telling her. Suddenly, she comes across some stairs that were most definitely not here back when our hero was scouting the floor. Seino figures that this must be the entrance to the second floor, so he rushes after Haru because the monsters here will be stronger than before. Of course, he wouldn't want his sensei to run into any monsters in the first place, but it's a bit too late for that by the time he reaches her. Seino offers to explain everything to Haru, but she is a bit distracted by the giant pumpkin monster in front of her. This is not good news for Seino, but then he notices a treasure chest next to the monster and realizes that they're in a small room. This is a rather surprising revelation for our hero. Normally, finding these rooms would be a pain, but the fact that Haru led Seino straight to it makes him wonder if she knew of its location right from the start. That shouldn't be true, because Haru has never been to the dungeon before, but then Seino wonders if she was possessed by something. In fact, he had also been taken to this labyrinth the exact same way. Now is not the time to be thinking about detective mysteries, so Seino tells Haru to back away and hide for now. She has no idea what's going on, but Seino tells her to run away because he has to deal with the pumpkin monster first. Our hero takes a look at the beast and learns that it's a level 10 monster, which is bad news for him. He might be good for a beginner, but he hasn't exactly become a proper monster hunter yet. Either way, he has to try his best, so he charges at it with his knife, hoping to beat it. Seino lands a couple of blows, but he then gets hit by a pumpkin seed which causes some damage to his body. He tries to go full force at the beast once again, but he is reckless with his attacks and ends up getting entangled by the pumpkin monster. Our hero is trapped, so he tries to come up with a means of escape. Sano is in a tricky spot right now, and he tries to cut himself free, but it's taking him too much time to make it happen. It looks like he's going to face his first loss against a monster. But then, in a sudden turn of events, Haru shows up with a torch and distracts the beast. This gives our hero enough time to cut himself loose, and then Haru tells him to run away while he still can. However, the torch is fading away, so Sano needs to strike now, otherwise he won't get a better shot. He finds the monster's vital point and goes for it at full strength, leaving no stone unturned. His finisher move works wonders, and he is able to destroy the pumpkin monster successfully. Sano is glad that he was able to defeat the monster, but he's quite tired and has Haru to thank for distracting the beast. He turns to his sensei, who hugs him tightly out of concern. Sano drops his knife and enjoys the hug, but Haru scolds him for not running away when he had the chance to do so. He tells her that she's worrying too much about this, because he would have just been sent back to the checkpoint. With no loss of life at risk, it made sense for our hero to take his chance against the pumpkin monster. However, what stands out to him the most is that this hug from his sensei feels different from the hug Haru gave him when she wanted his body. It feels so nostalgic to our hero, because nobody has ever cared for him like this in a long time. It's almost as if he is finally getting the affection he was denied by his parents while growing up. Haru asks Sano if he's even listening to her, and he says he can hear her loud and clear. Haru is still mad about the whole thing regarding the dungeon, but also wants to know about the pumpkin monster. Sano knows that he can't lie to her anymore now that the whole dungeon has been exposed to his sensei. He decides to tell her everything once they've calmed down and exited the dungeon. But first, he needs to take his treasure. Sano opens the chest and finds a small bell with a note. Haru wants to know what this is, but then the bell rings and she is put into a paralyzed state. Our hero is confused and panicked at first, so he reads the note and learns that it's a nightmare-inducing bell which has the ability to put people in a dreamlike state. This gives him a lot of clarity, but it also means that he is going to turn into a regularly shady boy. Basically, upon ringing the bell, Haru has been put to sleep, and she will not be able to remember what happens for the next 15 minutes. At the same time, anything that does happen in this duration will become a strong part of her subconscious mind. Essentially, this bell will be able to allow Sano to brainwash his own sensei into becoming his personal slave girl. This is great news for Sano, because now he can manipulate his sensei into letting him use the dungeon without telling anyone about it. He also manages to convince her that he's in love with her and proceeds to do unspeakable things once again. After he is done with his mission, he dresses up Haru once again, and then they step out of the maze as if nothing happened between them just now. She is still a bit hazy over what happened during the paralyzed state, but Sano explains the dungeon's logic to her. He says that there's a lot that even he doesn't understand, but makes sure to hide the facts about the magic tools. As expected, ignorance is bliss over here, but Sano has clearly moved on to the dark side. Haru is not sure what to make of this, especially because Sano's parents are not around, but she does agree to keep the whole thing a secret. It's not like a lot of people would believe her anyway. She tells Sano not to go into the dungeon again, and he's fine with that, but we all know it's just a lie to appease his sensei. He intends to continue with these missions and become the ultimate shady boy in his town. However, the next day in school, our hero worries that he won't be able to go to the dungeon again because Haru was quite strict when she spoke to him. He briefly believes it's almost as if the bell didn't have any effect, but then Haru walks into class dressed like a cute schoolgirl, which makes everyone's jaws drop. The way she greets everyone is also exactly the kind of way you would want a cute girl to speak to you. At the same time, it opens up a whole bunch of questions for our hero. What's going to happen next? Is Seino going to create his own school harem? And what on earth is the deal with Akitsu? Like, share, and subscribe if you liked this story and want me to continue. Show this video some love and I'll get working on part 2 as soon as possible. Okay then, see you in the next one.